On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:06 now on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in. If you missed our first 3 hours, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you, subscribe to podcasts, because you can download it and get caught up on all the conversations we've already had that you've missed. Joining us all morning long has been Julie Gunlock, of course, on this Wednesday. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
In 30 minutes, by the way, if you like those credit cards right now where you get like points or miles or cash back or whatever, you want to hear our conversation with Richard Hunt from Electronic Payments Coalition, because the Senate's looking to potentially screw with something you like, typical. We'll get to that conversation coming up in 30 minutes. But right now, we're joined by Joe Concha, author of the book Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Yo Daddy's Donkeys. Well, look at me throwing a little accent in there like I'm Kamala Harris. I'll do Jamaica next. Hey, Joe, good to talk with you.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday, Larry, Julie.
Same. So, listen, I want to give credit to there's a great account on the X platform, Maze Moore. Whoever that is, it could be a man, could be a woman. I don't know. I love anonymous accounts sometimes. This person, though, is a pretty good media critic, and they saw something that was quite remarkable on the 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. I want to play it real fast. Here's what it sounded like on the clip that was put out on Sunday from CBS News.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
That answer was a highly amusing, moronic, incoherent word salad, Joe Concha, and that, we talked about it. Here's what's really remarkable. When the interview finally aired, that same question was met with a different answer.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Joe Concha, how is this anything but a major media scandal at CBS News?
It should be a major media scandal, but I don't seem to be hearing about it all that much outside of it was talked about on Fox News. You're talking about it here on the Mornings on the Mall, but I don't see the usual media reporters, who are paid to hate watch Fox, talking about this. The way that they should be talking about it, or maybe the media critic over at CNN who was just rehired recently, or at the New York Times. So this should be something where people are like, wait a minute, that's obviously a stealth edit. They took out the part that was embarrassing to Kamala Harris. And I would just love to see, and I know this isn't going to happen, but I'd love to see Bill Whitaker, who did such a good job with that interview. He was interviewing Kamala Harris, asked some good questions, asked some good follow-ups, which he's never received before. I've never seen someone blink quite as fast as Kamala Harris than when she would give some sort of, again, word salad answer on the border, for example, and he would say, but crossings quadrupled. Yeah. And then she would have to go back. I'd love to see him come forward and say, this is an embarrassment. I did my job. Now I have a network that's stealth editing my answers to make Kamala Harris look better. This is CBS News. Remember that debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz just last week, the way they would fact-check J.D., but they wouldn't Walz, just like Trump was fact-checked by ABC and not, obviously, Harris. So this is clearly coming from the top, and the top wants Kamala Harris to win. I wish more people would be talking about this, but of course it's Silence of the Lambs, Larry.
Well, and another area that might be Silence of the Lambs will be the Emhoff scandal that broke this week. There is now new explosive testimony from some of his former colleagues that say he was abusive. He was constantly yelling expletives at people. He had a men's only cocktail hour. He sort of revoked work perks for women who didn't flirt with him. Do you think this has legs, or like the other scandals we've seen, will this just be met with silence?
Oh, Julie, it's the Hunter Biden laptop story in October 2020 all over again. Yep. I mean, you have three sources. I know they're unnamed, but at the same time, I'm just going to apply the rules. If this were a Republican, for example,
like Kavanaugh,
like Kavanaugh, thank
yes.
you. In 1982, there's a party that went on. Somebody said something.
Right. I do like beer.
Corroborated. Go with it anyway. Right? He likes beer. look, over in Cannes, France, Doug Emhoff was at a movie screening there at that festival, and apparently his date touched a valet on the shoulder because there's a long line for the cabs. If you've ever been there, it takes like 2 hours just to get out of that place sometimes because not enough cabs. And a lot of people.
I'm sorry, Jersey Joe Concha, but some of us don't go to Cannes Film Festival.
Look at you, la-di-da.
I won a contest, Larry. I won a contest. You could go to Concha.
Keep it real, my friend. I mean, some of us do that stuff, but we don't brag about it. We want to still sound like, who are you, Howard Stern all of a sudden?
Oh, I'm such an insufferable elitist. You're right. No, my wife took me there like 10 years ago. I don't know.
Oh, look at him.
It's okay.
He just threw the wife under the bus.
We totally derailed you. Okay, go on.
And then I just drove the bus off a cliff like Thelma and Louise. What am I doing? Anyway, at this festival, if I could get to my point.
Yeah, that dreaded cab line you're waiting endlessly for when you're in Cannes. Go ahead.
Right. What's that, honey? I can take the kids to school? Okay. Hey, guys, I got to go. No, look, the bottom line is that Doug Emhoff slapped his date so hard she spun around.
Wow.
And this was like their first date or something like that. So all these reports now coming out against the potential first gentleman, a guy who they have portrayed as being, what did Jen Psaki say? He's redefining masculinity.
Yeah, here it is.
The interesting part of how people have talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity.
And Joe, by the way, that was before the slapping the girlfriend at Cannes story came out, but we already knew that he had slept around with his babysitter, impregnated her, blew up his marriage, and then paid hush money to the babysitter to make the whole thing go away. We already knew that story. He admitted it, but there's Jen Psaki saying that.
Amazing. And then Kamala Harris went on that podcast, Call Your Daddy. Doug Emhoff apparently turned down an invitation to call your nanny.
There it is. Nice.
There it is. See, I'm back, baby. I am back.
So did one of your friends at Cannes write that one for you?
Actually, yes. As a matter of fact, thank you, Jacques. Jacques Brunswick.
Actually, speaking of comedy writers, Stephen Colbert's show really should invest in some comedy writers. Did you see the embarrassment last night on that program? Again, basically being used as a propaganda tool for the Kamala for President campaign. You and I were the same generation. We loved Letterman. We loved these shows. What has happened to comedy now?
Letterman, Leno, Conan O'Brien during his his run. These guys just did comedy, right? And when Carson would jump into politics, it would happen once every year, maybe,
right?
Because he realized that wasn't his role. And then it was so cringe. I mean, if I cringed any harder, I'd be a fossil. Watching Stephen Colbert. Yep, I got that from Con too. Stephen Colbert and Kamala Harris. They have a beer together, right? And she takes a sip of it as if this was the first time ever those lips ever tasted those buds. And it's just, it was just so, God, I can't believe that's a late night TV show.
Joe, you're so right. She's actually done this weird little girl thing lately where she's kind of acting like, well, and she has these very sweet voice. And I saw that with the beer. You're right that she took a sip like she'd never had a beer before. Please.
Yeah. And at one point, Colbert asked her, and this happened twice yesterday, on The View and then on Colbert, what would you do differently than Joe Biden? Or what would you do differently from the last 4 years?
Yep.
On The View, she says, I would have done nothing differently, which is the best campaign ad Donald Trump could ever hope for. And then Colbert gives her another chance because he knows, all right, that didn't play well. And then she says, well, I'm not Donald Trump, and I'm not Joe Biden. Oh, wow, a physical difference. Great, thank you. We appreciate that contrast. I mean, the CPU is not programmed for the most basic of answers. I don't see how this person is possibly close in any of these races. I get people hate Trump, and they're going to vote against him no matter what, but there can't be that many people there that they're going to base their vote on because they can't be voting for her. That's certainly for sure.
Jersey Joe Concha. He may have a name like he's, the head of the Longshoremen Union, but he still keeps it real. And he's, and by the way, of course, a graduate of the University of Maryland. He bleeds terrapin red or something. Joe Concha. Always good to talk to you, my friend. And
thanks, Joe.
It's condescending Conch. That's my new title. Thank you.
You really should. You can affect a French accent like our Democrat nominee there, and it'll be perfect. Thank you, Joseph. Take care of yourself. It's
Bye-bye.
8:16 now. We got to swing it over. We got a little sidetrack there on the complaint.
That's
You
fine.
can't let that lie. You
know.
can't. No, that needs to be called out immediately.
Oh, Jamie.
Jamie, bless you. Jamie
That
Wittens.
wasn't me.
Well, there's someone in the room behind you there at the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Traffic and weather brought to you by Hadid Carpet Cleaning. Need a new roof? Go to longroofing.com. Get your free estimate today.
As we just mentioned, Kamala Harris did another softball appearance, this time on the Colbert Show last night. And instead of just telling you what she said, let's listen to what she said.
Administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm
By the way, real fast. 'cause-
What a setup.
Yeah, exactly. And not only is it what a setup, but this should be a fundamental question that you should be able to answer. There's only one vice president, I think, who has run for president after serving as vice president, who was able to say, I won't change a damn thing. And it worked out in his favor. That was George Bush running basically on Ronald Reagan's third term, right?
Smart, yeah.
Even Al Gore differentiated himself from Bill Clinton when he was running for president in 2000. Here you've got Kamala Harris, who is dealing with an incredibly unpopular economy and a broken border, broken.
crime,
There's
yeah.
tons of things to differentiate yourself with. And she just can't. She's not
has
prepared for it. So
nothing. She
the
has
question
nothing.
should be pretty easy for her to answer.
obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of. But
So the first big difference is I'm a different person.
I'm a different human being.
Yeah. So there's that.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Which, by the way, strangely, the one thing Joe Biden still has going for him with voters is that people are sort of like, yeah, he's Joe. It's okay. And there are still people who like him. I don't like him. I think he's a mean SOB. But so the one differentiation she's trying to make is the one thing that he's got going for him, which is, I'm a different person. It's like they hate Joe Biden's policies, but people seem to be okay with him personally because they feel sorry for him, right?
Yeah.
And here she is sort of saying, well, I'm not going to be like that guy.
It's like that crazy uncle. He's just, yeah.
also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about
So again, the question is, what are you going to do different than Joe Biden?
I'm just not Donald Trump.
That's
There you
right.
go.
That's all she's got. But now I'm going to let this play a little further because you're going to hear her short circuit. This is one of those things where she blinks. She blinks, and you can't see the blinking. I'll point it out to you when it happens. But it's when she tries to make this about being a new generation of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And then she doesn't know where to go from there.
Right.
And so she has her blinking short circuit and then goes back to some canned, hackneyed talking point
it's
that she's
painful
memorized.
to watch.
Here's where it happens. Listen.
the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like were I to be elected president, it is about,
Right there.
frankly,
Right there. Right there.
I
Right
love
there.
the American people, and
There
I
you go.
believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people.
So the question is, how will your presidency be different from Joe Biden? And her answer is, I love the American people.
Yeah. And she has a couple of these. Her other one that she commonly does is, look, I grew up a middle-class kid
Yes, exactly.
with a single mother, and we couldn't buy a house until I was a teenager. She does this whole...
Well, she
does a
did
couple-
try that one later with Colbert, and it should be pointed out that she has 3 homes. One of them is in LeBron James's neighborhood
I
in
know.
Los
Yes, yes,
Angeles.
yes.
But yes, she's middle class.
We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and
So just for the
Again,
record,
yeah.
the answer to the question, how will your president, what will you do differently than Joe Biden? The answer is, and I'll read it to you, I love the American people. I believe in our country. I love that it's our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We have incredible work ethic. I just believe we can create and build upon the success we achieved in a way to continue to grow opportunity.
Someone needs to tell her that a Hallmark card is not policy and does not reassure the American public.
Well, and ultimately, the bottom line is she'll do nothing differently than Joe Biden. Nothing at all.
oh,
In
it'll
fact,
get worse.
she'll be worse.
She'll be far to the left of him.
And then there was this further debasement of Stephen Colbert, whatever is left of his dignity and career.
One of the old saws is they just want somebody they can have a beer with. So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay. This was... Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You wrote Miller High Life.
Right. By the way, why didn't she ask for Bud Light?
Bud Light.
Yeah, interesting.
That
It's
is
like
her
she's
brand.
a transphobe.
Yes, absolutely.
Miller is also from Milwaukee,
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Bigot.
This is all very.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and by the way, big news! We got a new accent last night.
Oh, yes.
Brand new accent.
It's funny. I've started.
Oh, darn it! Here's the accent.
Have empathy, man. For the suffering of other people.
What would you call that? Is
Bob
that,
Marley.
Is that is a Jamaican thing, right?
100%.
Give me ganja, man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
also a little Irish, though.
Maybe.
I think so. Sort of like oh, you're looking for me, Lucky Charms.
A little there, yeah.
There's a little bit of everything for
Yeah, she
you
can't
with
decide.
Kamala Harris. That's beautiful.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:37 now on O'Connor and Company. Coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to hand it off to Chris Plant for the Chris Plant Show. In the meantime, Julie Gunlock and I, Larry O'Connor, have some unfinished business here that we got to take care of. Julie, always great morning. Thanks for being here all day.
Good morning.
You know, I've been tracking this story for a while now. There's a piece of legislation that's slowly making its way through the Senate. It's the Durbin Marshall credit card. But, you know, anytime something's got Durbin's name on it,
I know.
you know, right? It's like,
Right. Oh, dear.
Just vote no. Just
Yes,
vote no. And it's one of these typical things where it's like one of those, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Washington. I've got a credit card. I've got 2 credit cards right now. One of them, I get airline miles. The other one, I get points for my hotel stays. And they're great, and I love them, and I utilize them, and I get benefit out of it. The companies get benefit out of it. It's great, right? A lot of people use those cashback credit cards where they get cash back at the end of the month.
Nothing is broken.
It's great. Well, of course, this Durbin Marshall credit card bill, I don't even understand the basis of it, but we've got a representative here from the Electronic Payments Coalition, Richard Hunt, who knows everything there is to know about this. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Larry, Julie, very good morning to you.
So explain to me what it is they're trying to solve here with this bill that will end up sort of messing up these credit cards that, again, what's broken that the Senate's trying to fix here?
Larry, this is just bonkers. There is nothing wrong with the way credit cards are processed today. These are just politicians trying to do the bidding of corporate mega stores. Look, we all love our credit cards, and I want to make sure all your listeners pay off their credit card bill on a monthly basis. But the credit card is a terrific product. It is safe. It is convenient for millions of Americans. That's how they get their credit. They don't have to go to a payday lender. They just use their credit card, and millions of people like you, Larry, use their credit card reward miles to travel. Look, here we are in October. People right now are booking their flights to go home for Christmas or for the other holidays. This is a very important month to use that. Some 50 million people do that. And Larry, you hit the nail on the head. For those folks making less than $75,000, they rely on cash back to pay for grocery stores, prices. You know how high groceries are today. The corporate mega stores are just charging us out of the wazoo. And also to use it to reduce the cost of gas as well. But yeah, look, Dick Durbin, Roger Marshall have been after this for almost 10 years, trying to do to the credit card what they did to debit cards. You remember, Larry?
Yeah, you know, I was just going to ask you about that. There already was something with debit card bills where they claimed they were putting some sort of additional mandates on how debit card transactions occur, and the idea was that consumers were going to save money on those transactions in the long run, right?
Surprisingly, it did not happen. Back in 2010, Durbin said, federal government, you lower the price what credit cards can charge on debit cards. And they promised that the consumers would get money back, and they didn't. Even CRS said they did not. And you used to get points on debit cards. Those went away. Same thing is going to happen here, Larry. If this bill were ever to pass, you can kiss your reward points goodbye. And look, what's even worse, look, I'm from Louisiana, and we don't have the best ethics in the land.
I'm from Louisiana. We're all corrupt down here. All right, that's fair.
You can rent our politicians out. You just can't buy them. But what's going on with Dick Durbin from Illinois is now, since they can't win in Congress, they're weaponizing the United States federal government against those industries who oppose his bill. Just lately, they've turned to GAO, the CFPB, the Department of Justice, Department of Transportation to investigate the companies who oppose their legislation. They're losing in Congress, so they're turning to the federal government. And this is the perfect example of the weaponization of the United States government just because you oppose their bill.
Richard, absolutely. But also, there seems to be on the left this sort of war against convenience and war against sort of life being good and technology sort of improving the lives of Americans. I think about hurricanes right now, and some people are running from these storms, and they need a credit card to book a flight or get on a bus or book a hotel. What is it with the left and their sort of discomfort with things like, I don't know, gas stoves, air conditioning, you name it? They just don't seem to like modern technology.
Yeah, I don't get this. The credit card is one of the greatest innovations ever known to the United States of America and to the world. People use this on a daily basis. This is just corporate America not wanting to pay their price for good or service they receive from my Visa and MasterCard. Look, again, I don't like how much I pay for my gallon of milk. I don't like how much I have to pay for gas. But the last thing I'm going to do is go to the federal government and say, lower my price.
Yeah.
And this is just absurd. And this is Walmart and Target and Home Depot trying to save a few pennies, but it's going to come out of a cost to the American consumer.
So instead of negotiating lower fees for their credit cards and actually working and operating in the free market, they're basically paying through their lobbyists a bunch of senators and congressmen to tinker with the market and force credit card companies to reduce their fees. Is that basically what's going on here?
Yeah, Larry, let me throw you out my favorite stat. In the past 7 years, the rate a merchant pays for the use and value of a credit card has remained 2% for 7 years. Now, Larry,
that's amazing because it's gotten so much more efficient over the years. It's amazing how quickly you can get a transaction approved and everywhere.
Within seconds. Is your cup of coffee the same price as it was 7 years ago?
Hardly.
How about your gallon of milk? No.
Yeah.
But our price has remained 2% for the last 7 years. Remarkable how we kept the prices down. But the grocery stores have charged more, so therefore they were trying to save a few pennies. But this is a great value the merchant gets on a credit card. It's much safer, much more expensive, less expensive to use a credit card, Larry, than cash.
Yeah.
Think about how expensive it is to use cash.
Dick Durbin hasn't met anything that he hasn't tried to break with his power as a senator, and this seems to be one of them as well. The good news is you've got a website out there that has all the information, Richard. It's guardyourcard.com. I like that. It rhymes. Guardyourcard.com. Inform yourself, educate yourself, and there's also tools there where you can send an email to your senator and congressman and tell them to leave your credit cards alone. Richard, we got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Larry, hey, thank you very much. Don't forget to use those miles today.
I will. Actually, I've got some holiday flights I got to book. It is 8:44. Can we just have a bit of a recap here on what's going on with the Kamala Harris campaign?
Let's do.
Because, again, I don't mean to be too Pollyanna-ish here, but you want to be Donald Trump right now more than you want to be Kamala Harris, where things are sitting in this election. Kamala Harris is picking a fight with Ron DeSantis during a Cat 5 hurricane. That didn't work out for her. She's doing nothing but friendly media, and she's still stepping on her own tongue.
Yes.
Even when CBS News edits things to make her look better. And meanwhile, over on the other, her running mate, Tim Walz.
Oh, dear.
Yesterday, Tim Walz is at a fundraiser at Gavin Newsom's house, I guess, or something that Gavin Newsom is hosting in California. Yeah, exactly. And it's leaked from this private fundraiser that he said, we've got to get rid of the Electoral College. Now, if you're about to win the presidency, you're not trashing the Electoral College.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Instead, if you're slamming the Electoral College
you're
in
nervous.
California,
oh yeah,
you're already making excuses.
Yes.
Why you're losing.
Yes.
I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go, according to Politico. We need a national popular vote. That's something, but that's not the world we live in. So he sounds like he's already making excuses why they're about to live. Also, here's the best part. He can say that in California, fine, whatever.
Right, exactly.
He's spending all of his time in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, maybe Georgia, maybe North Carolina. He's going to these states, and the message is, hey,
you
guys,
don't matter.
Vote for us so when we're in office, we'll never campaign here again.
You will never matter
because
again.
you'll never matter.
Yep, you're flyover
if
country.
I had my way, I wouldn't have to be here. I'd just run up the score in New York and Illinois and California.
Classic case of saying the quiet part out loud.
They are melting down.
They are.
8:52. All right, that's a wrap there. Julie Gunlock, Patrice Onwuka here in for Mercedes tomorrow, and we got Chris Plant right here, right now, in for no one. You're in for nobody.
That's exactly right. I'm just in for me, and that's not an act of selfishness or anything like that.
If you're not in for yourself, then who is?
That's right. Then somebody else would have to show up, and that would be impolite. That would be rude. You see, Kamala was asked yesterday if she would flee the country. I love the flee the country stuff by Howard Stern. If Trump wins, would Kamala Harris flee the country? That would be, I think, Venezuela would welcome her with open arms, and she could chase garbage trucks down the street looking for something to eat, do all that good stuff. Amazing stuff. Kamala Harris on the loose. We got a big hurricane. And it looks like a very nasty hurricane that's attacking Florida. A friend of mine in Florida just texted minutes ago, said, "We shoot looters here. Let people know."
Well, that should calm things down.
Yeah.